Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bears on Tap. I'm your boy Juice, and I'm joined today by Q at Butkus Stats. We're going to break down the same old-ish. That's the title of today's episode. A lot of the same stuff that we saw over the course of the first game, rearing its ugly head in this one. But first, let's start out with just a little positive action here. And Q, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I am once again, I am on to Kansas City. Not Tampa Bay this time. Just moving on. We are onward and upward. That's all I can think.
In some ways, man, it feels like it only has room to go up. I'm sure you've had a lot of time over the course of the last 2 days here to watch some tape, to break some things down, to look forward towards Kansas City, like you said. But just kind of opening remarks for this, it just sucks that this is where we're at. There's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of negativity going around. And yeah, the Bears didn't play up to the standards that we think that they're going to play at. But there's more to this than just Justin Fields and his, lack of good play per se. There's more that's going on here. But I just want to get your first kind of thoughts about the game, things that you saw irked you, just giving you the floor to just go ahead and talk about Sunday's game in a little bit of depth.
Yeah, I mean, so when I went back and watched the film, I was focusing on offensive line because that's kind of what I'm trying to do this year is go watch the game 5 times, 1 time for each position, and get grades for every offensive lineman, in my own opinion, and obviously that's difficult because I don't know exactly how they're being coached to do certain things, but you can get a general idea, and I tend to think it evens out over the course of the film. It might not always, but you got to try, right? Otherwise, you can't really build a good assessment on these guys. So most of my focus, like I said, was on just the offensive line. So I wasn't watching many route combos when I was rewatching it. I wasn't watching any schematic stuff with the receivers and what route concepts they're running and what Justin Fields is looking at. It was more offensive line. And I'll tell you, man, I have never seen an offense that likes to keep their offensive linemen busy and running horizontal as much as this one. Like, I don't get some of the reasons for why they're doing things the way they are and some of the misdirection they're trying to create with the offensive line moving with run action. Like, I understand you like to pull certain guys on runs. Pulling them in pass pro isn't really doing a whole lot. If you're pulling a guy for a run, I don't think the misdirection of, oh, well, maybe it's a pass, I don't know, like it's going to get you a long way. And I don't think the thought of on that pass, oh, this must be a run, is opening up the middle of the field space over the linebackers like you're hoping it will. So it's just, I just came away there were just a lot of moments where I was just like, I had to replay stuff and go like, why are they doing this? Which isn't a new take. I mean, the last 2 weeks, it's been all over YouTube. It's been all over Twitter. Like these instances of we just don't understand what they're trying to accomplish on certain plays. The one takeaway that probably is a little different is I can't imagine the Bears' offensive line is on very good terms with Luke Getsy after he made them run downfield on screens about 10, 15 times on Sunday in 100-degree heat. 300-pound men, one of their least favorite things to do is chase small, fast guys in 100-degree heat. So,
as they say in dodgeball, it's a bold strategy, Cotton, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see how it plays out. I too, I watched this game over at my sister's place with my nephew, who just born into being a Bears fan. The poor guy, his first 2 games are these 2 disasters. But
he deserves a medal.
He really does already. The kid's 4 months old, and he's already the good news for him is he won't remember him. We sit here and we remember every single game here. He'll grow up hopefully in a Bear society that is much more advanced than the one that we're at. But
odds are he's even saltier than we are.
This is probably true. But just I thought at least silver lining. There's a lot of negative stuff going around, and I love what Scott already jumping into the comments. Spin zone. Bears are 1 game out of first place. Yep, totally. Right there. Get on the train, making the playoffs, winning the division. Love it. I thought the effort was at least better on Sunday than it was, against the Packers. I think that's silver lining that at least I think this coaching staff in general too felt the backlash of last week's media and the fan base and falling flat on their face in front of national media, and pretty much probably went in and had a good meeting with everybody. I'm sure you've heard they already talked to Claypool, and Claypool definitely stuck his helmet in more over the course of Sunday's game than he did, the previous. But it's still, it leaves you questioning. And then we're not going to make this whole show like berating Justin Fields. That's going on enough over the course of the national media. I want to place some blame in certain places that I don't think are being talked about enough, in places that you've looked on tape. The schemes, the offensive line, yeah, Justin's bad. But like you said, a lot of this scheming stuff just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I even have a hard time with the offensive line after watching these 2 games. I mean, Patrick and Whitehair are definitely struggling some, but I think you are getting some really good tackle play, except for when Braxton's getting penalties. That's a whole nother issue. But I think the tackles are playing very good football right now, between the whistles. And then at right guard, I think you got good, people. I don't think people realize this. You got some really nice play from Nate Davis in week 1 that, I mean, there were some rough plays sprinkled in there of first week, didn't really get to practice much, and definitely rusty, but there was some really impressive plays out there too from him. So I have a hard time saying the offensive line has been that bad. I don't generally agree with some of the PFF pressures numbers that came out after marking my own grades. And I see an offensive line that really Lucas Patrick played pretty well Sunday in pass protection. The run blocking is a whole nother question. But the pass protection, Lucas Patrick was sticking it to Vita Vea for a lot of that game.
Yeah, it's good to see there are at least some things that showed up on tape that makes some sense. I do want to – we're going to kind of transition. We are going to talk a little bit of Justin Fields at least and talk about his leash as a starter. I think that if you're watching, you're seeing a lot of the things that you saw with Mitch Trubisky when he came here too, and there's a lot of the same kind of conversation. I think that, like you said, we were talking about it off air, there's a lot of Trubisky trauma at this point. There's a lot of guys too that are watching this and thinking that a lot of these things are wrong in terms of it's Justin missing reads. And yeah, he's missing throws. There's no doubt about that. And he's not playing well. But to me, what I don't understand is some of the route combinations. I don't get some of the things that they're trying to do in terms of scheming and play calling in general, getting from one play to another to set something up. It seems like it's this jumbled up. I always joked about when Matt Nagy was here, he would spin the wheel and whatever it landed on was yeah, we're going to run that. I see the same things with Getsy, and it's starting to get a little frustrating.
Yeah, I get this feeling with Getsy that he just he wants to overthink everything. And he's running a play so he can set up another play that will set up this perfect play. And it's you just don't get those perfect scenarios. That's not maybe when Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, you can afford to do that. But when he's not, you probably can't. And on the Trubisky trauma thing, putting it all on Trubisky is probably not fair because there's plenty of quarterback trauma to go through in my lifetime as a Bears fan. But Trubisky trauma just has a nice ring to it, so we're going with it. And the third year thing. So, like, I mean, you think back to 2019, like, we were all foaming at the mouth week 1, and it was about as disappointing as it could possibly get, right? And then it's like week 2 was actually a pretty similar game to what we just saw. It was just like the other side of it. You know, it was a miraculous win instead of a miraculous loss. But really, I think it's important to think about, like, how long was the leash that you gave Trubisky as a fan in that third year? Like, and I'm not necessarily saying Justin deserves it, because I mean, I know I gave Trubisky too long of a leash that year as a fan, and like of hoping that he would turn stuff around. But I do think it's important to be conscious of, like, how much am I rejecting that he can turn this around because of what I've been through emotionally with this franchise before. And I mean, I think I keep catching myself and telling myself, like, I'm giving myself to at least like mid-season, week 10, week 12 before I'm writing them off. Cause like, what else are they going to do? You know, what's the point of writing them off right now? Like, what do I have to gain from that? I mean, I'm not going to go out there and parade onto Twitter yelling to the masses that Justin Fields needs to be benched for Tyson Bagent, you know, but like, I think that there's a level of just being capable of waiting and seeing that is hard when you've been through that level of quarterback trauma that most Bears fans have. And like, just the next thing has to be better. It has to be better. Well, there is no next thing till next year. So let's just ride this out. Let's just see where he goes.
And I think too, like, I would feel way better about it if I could point to somebody in that locker room and say, successfully developed a quarterback. I think that's, at the end of the day, like, you look on this staff and you're like, man, like, who there knows what to, and it shows so much to me when you see Justin in the pocket trying to rip throws, because it looks so disjointed. Like, he just doesn't look comfortable. He looks like he's trying to do too much. And I had a chance to watch, you know, some of the stuff on YouTube and things like that. And a lot of these guys and these quarterback gurus are talking about his feet and his upper body and his lack of drive through on the football, using a lot of upper arm and not getting his lower half into it. It hurts, because I think this is going to lead us into our next topic, which is, like, in terms of quarterback development, you know, there's a lot of things that are happening this year that are a result of what he had to deal with last year. And the year before that, too. And tendencies are tough to break. An athlete, when he has 2 seconds in the pocket to read and react, it's tough to break when you've been told one way and then expecting, you know, it to do a different type of drop or a different, you know, setup. And that's, when you watch him, he looks so disjointed. And too, like, I know it's difficult to be happy when you're getting your brain beat in, but he also, too, doesn't look like he's having any fun out there either. It looks like he's dropping his head more often than last year. And they knew last year, in terms of what last year was, they were trying to lose. But this year they're trying to win.
Were they?
And, well, maybe.
Now I'm questioning it.
Yeah, it's tough to – but after a certain point, sure, you know, we even talked about on the show too, in terms of Getsy and certain play calls against Green Bay last year, and talking about kind of sabotaging his own offense. Now, maybe that's just his way of calling the game, but it's funny to sit and have these same conversations over and over and over again, and it almost becomes like a franchise thing where you really start to doubt if they have any idea of how to take a quarterback to the next level, no matter who the name is.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a level of well-run franchises have people in place, have systems in place, have processes that they go through that just breed good habits, right? Now, I don't think that's specific to the quarterback. I think that's just in general. And I think that's something the Bears have, you know, never really had in my life, which is going to hurt every position's development, but especially quarterback, especially the guy you're expected to go out and lead on Sundays. When there's not examples of good process within the organization, how do you expect him to develop good process? And I really think one of the things that fan bases in general, and this isn't specific to Bears fans, this is just fans of football everywhere, there's this tendency to look ahead, right? To say, all right, we've got that spot figured out. Next year we'll have 2 first-round picks. We'll get this spot and this spot. And then from there, add a free agent and we'll be good. And it's like that's not the way this works. These are human beings going through real things every single play, every day out there, every moment, every bad word that's written about them in a paper. I mean, you can stay away from the media all you want. You're still going to hear it here and there. And there are impacts to everything that a player goes through. So when a player is getting to the point where Fields was last year of like first read one to survive, it's really hard to start to change that. And like it depends how much you believe that a quarterback can develop later in their career and can change later in their career, I guess would be my next argument of how, is it done? Is it over? Is it like Justin Fields is what he is now because of what he went through with that? Or is it he is what he is because that's just what he is? And that's the ultimate question with quarterback development. But I tend to believe a lot of it comes down to how you succeeded in the NFL when you got there. And right now that is what we're kind of seeing. He's not able to do any of the things that he found success with. And it's almost like he's going back to being a rookie, like from a process standpoint of like, he's having to figure this stuff out on the fly, and you can do it all you want in practice. It's not the same. If it was, then you'd see more rookie quarterbacks coming in after a good training camp and doing well. That's just like, look at Bryce Young right now. Look at CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud just had a good week, but week 1, he didn't necessarily. And the guys who come in and really succeed early in their career are pretty rare. And not to say Fields is necessarily early in his career anymore. Year 3 tends to be the it year, but I think there's a lot of reflection within the Bears organization. And as a fan, I like to reflect on it too, because I think it's the most interesting part of football, quarterback development. And you need to set these people up for success. Like, you think the Panthers regret giving up DJ Moore right now? Bryce Young has no one to throw to. Like, no one gets open. Adam Thielen runs like a 5.5 40 now. So that type of stuff matters. That learning what NFL open is and is not matters. And that's receivers. That's what receivers do. And when you haven't had players on your team who can show you what that is, you get to year 3 and there's finally weapons, but you still don't really know it. That's some of what I think we're seeing. And the question now is that something that can improve at this point? And ultimately, like, I feel it should be, but there's not evidence of it happening, which is weird. It's almost like a guy can only take so many hits before it's just like, all right, there's no more. Like, you see Fields right now. I couldn't help but notice Sunday, he's spooked. He thinks that he's about to get hit when he's not. It feels like to me. And he is antsy to do something because his internal clock, he's been hit early so many times. His internal clock is screaming at him, you don't want to get hit again. That's survival, right? That's human instinct. You have enough negative things happen to you in a certain way, you start to avoid that. Like, so I think that's really what it is. Sorry, I kind of took it all over there. But.
No, that's why we have you here, Q, and that's why Scott puts a great point in here too. Like, it's at this point, players are not going to change in this season. Figure out what you can do good, and do that. Yeah, that's exactly where we're at this point. There's no reason to. I wouldn't have my 8-year-old godson, who I watched play football on Sunday before the Bears game. He's the Leiden Bears. That was my best Bears experience I had on Sunday. They won. He plays offensive line, plays left tackle.
A good man.
Yeah, he's a big kid. Big bear. You'd love him. We'll have to have him on the show. But it's one of those things where you watch on Sunday and you're like, man, like, it's about putting players in position to succeed. That's a coach's job. And I watched Justin, and I wouldn't ask my 8-year-old godson to go work on the NASA space shuttle. Like, he's not good at that yet. And that's why I think that this is where we're at. It's going to transition us into our next topic, which is changing the offense at least a little bit to make him more comfortable, to do some things and some concepts that he excels at. Because at the end of the day, maybe one day in Justin's career, he can sit in that pocket and identify the coverage and make the right read and get the ball out on time. It's clear that time isn't now. So this is the choice that the Bears coaching staff has. You can square peg, round hole it as long as you can, or you could change it to your player and be a good coach. And I think as much as we talk about the lack of quarterback success in this town, we should pair it with the lack of coaching success in this town. Because other than Lovie Smith, in my 30 years, it's been trash. And it comes to a point in the NFL and in any sport where it's on the coaches to put the players on the field in the positions to succeed. So what do they have to do with this group to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, so to your point with the coaches, like, what was it? I want to say it was when Lovie Smith was fired. What was he? Something like the 12th Bears coach ever or something.
Something
like it was something that was like made you think about it. Like, oh, okay, like so there haven't been that many of them, huh? It's like that's out the window right now. Like that is gone after the last decade. Because it's just like that number is pushing up towards 20 now. You know, that's not the way that you wanted to see it go. But back to your question with the offense of what needs to change. I mean, start something easy. Just run a few read options a game. Gives Justin the chance to read and hit a hole. And I mean, we saw how dangerous he was with them last year. He had multiple runs over 50 yards off of it. And it doesn't guarantee that he's getting hit because if Reed's not there, he's handing off. And it can help your run game. It can help you get the running backs going on the ground too. And it just adds him as an element, even without the fake of it, even without the element of post-snap looking like he might run, pre-snap the element of we got to spy this kid. We got to have someone covering him at all times. That gives you 10 on 11 football. That gives you or 10 on 10, I guess, if you're not counting the quarterback. Like you, at that point, you're 1-on-1 across the board, which usually it's 11 on 10 for offense because the quarterback isn't really a consideration. Like that is a giant advantage. That is like taking 9% of the field and just telling them you can't cover this. You're not allowed in this box. Like that's how big of an advantage that can be. And it's such a simple little thing. Run it 4 or 5 times a game. And it gets it in their head. And they have to be thinking about it, especially on third downs, like third and shorts, like where it can be so dangerous. And it can be dangerous on any down distance, but I feel like on third downs where you can really eat off of it if you can get in good yardage situations on first, second down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like jumping into the comments here too. And Rabbi, love draft a quarterback. He is bad. These are all comments that are going to happen after. There's 15 more games left to play. There's 15 more to salvage what you can out of Justin Fields. I appreciate you jumping in, but we're not at that point yet. Yeah, if I promise you at the end of these next 15 games, If the Bears are bad and they have a top pick, yeah, they're probably going to be looking at a quarterback. I'll be completely honest with you there. And there's probably a new head coach in this town too at that point. But let's try to, over the course of the next 15, try to take strides towards winning football games and establishing a culture because, yeah, we can sit here and be like, yeah, lose the next 15. That doesn't matter. You're still setting a precedent in the locker room.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for, if they're going to be bad, I'm all for getting the number one pick. But there is a dangerous slope there at some point of being the Cleveland Browns of 5 years ago. And that is not a place you want to be. And
there's still guys in this locker room that are going to be on those teams for years to come. Look at guys like Gervon Dexter, like Darnell Wright. There's names on this route that need to learn how to win, and there's value in that. So, and two, I would love to get to the end of this whole season and be like, yeah, thank God we don't have to worry about the quarterback position. We have a guy in the locker room right now that has some traits. I think it's fair to say that Justin Fields is talented. It's about putting him in the positions to succeed that are comfortable for him. And Scott jumps in here real quick too before you swallow the pride and change their system. Go ahead, Q.
So if you want to get real optimist, looking for seeking out the reason why he's destined to be good, Jonathan Wood had a tweet today, and Jonathan Wood is usually not an optimist, but it was just a fun little stat. I shouldn't say he's not an optimist, but he's not a guy who is searching for the wrong things, just to sound optimistic. He's a guy, he's pretty real with everything he puts out. But on this one, it was interesting. It's Fields is a slow starter. So best case scenario, he's always been rough his first few games of the year in Chicago, at least. I'd have to go back and look at his Ohio State numbers to tell you that. But so maybe, I don't know. I'm not counting on it, but weirder things have happened. Kyle Schwarber wasn't very good for the Cubs in April and May.
Yeah, anything. There's a lot. There's 15 games left in the season. And Robbie, I don't mean to attack you. There's a lot of people out there who are saying these same things. Draft quarterback. Yeah, if they're bad, that's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's going to happen. They will be moving on from Justin Fields. And then this time, it's time to talk about what's going on with the team and the coaching staff and what they can do to better this team. And we just did it. So,
well, isn't the Bears cycle more like I know they broke it last time. Or actually, no, I guess they didn't. So they're due to trade for a bad veteran now. It's always draft a quarterback, trade for a bad veteran. Draft a quarterback, trade for a bad veteran. That was so it was what? Grossman, Greasy. So I guess that was signing him, but whatever. And then there was, I guess they didn't draft him between Greasy and Cutler. So we just go Grossman, Cutler, just to make it easy.
So what?
Trubisky, Foles, Fields, who's the guy?
So what you're saying is we're going to get Russell Wilson and then an offensive coach for the next one? Because it seems like that's also the same thing too. It's offensive head coach. We don't figure it out that it's defensive head coach, and then it's offensive head coach, and it'll just go on and on forever.
No, the guys they get usually aren't guys who had those great resumes at some point. It's usually more like a Geno Smith.
Okay. It would make a lot of sense at this point. But I know you were talking earlier on the show about watching a lot of tape of the O-line, and I don't know if you had a chance to drop in your thoughts, but I do want you to take a little time to talk about the offensive line and some good things you've seen, some bad things that you've seen, and I know you mentioned for sure that you're getting some decent tackle play out of Wright and Jones, minus some penalties on the left side.
Yeah, Wright and Jones are the top two graded O linemen on this team right now. And Wright is the top graded, which is surprising to see from a rookie to come out and do that well that quickly. But I will say I won't be surprised if there's a regression here soon, because at Tennessee, there was very little tape of him in NFL style play. And really true pass sets where the quarterback doesn't have the ball out pretty quickly. So now they're starting to get tape out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if defense coordinators start targeting him more specifically with certain concepts and certain players and testing him a little bit more, that they see, they're watching the tape and they see, oh, well, if we stack the line on his two gaps, he has a moment of hesitation and the inside guy's got a chance because he kicks a little wide like that. That's the type of thing that we're going to start to see, I think, happening to Wright. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a down here, and it's all about how he answers that. It's all about how it's all about taking punches and counter punching, right? Like, so I think he's going to go through ups and downs this year, but the early results are really impressive. And I think that he's living up to all the tools that I thought he was pre-draft right now. And I'm just really excited to see where his career goes from here. And then Braxton Jones, I mean, last year we talked a lot about his run blocking, right? And his ability to move in space and hit moving targets. And like, that was something that you really felt like you could build a rush offense around. But this year, his run blocking has not been that impressive. It's actually been kind of like a little bit like underwhelming, but his pass protection, I've been very impressed with. The anchor is still lacking some, but some of the hand technique, some of the flexibility, you can see what he worked on this offseason. I'm sure he worked on his anchor too, but I think he's just high cut. I think his leverage is always going to be a bit of an issue. Like by high cut, I mean like he's his waist is high up on his body, right? So he's gonna be tall, or his waist is So he's just gonna tend to play taller. Or I think that's actually the other way around. Your waist is lower, so there's only so low you can get, which is just going to impact your play level and your ability to gain that leverage on the guy you're blocking. And low man wins, right? That's the sport. That's every sport, really. It's all about hip drive, and low man wins in like half the sports you can think of. But his pass protection his technique has really impressed me so far. The penalties need to stop, and I think they will, because like I can't imagine they continue at this rate, especially with them not being a major issue for him last year. But I'm really impressed with him. The interior, I think Nate Davis is going to end up being a nice signing for this team. I mean, I know that he got off the wrong foot with the fans, with all the practice stuff. We didn't really know what was going on. I mean, I saw a lot of that I put on the Bears PR team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that they need to be out there saying specifically what's happening, but like something as simple as a coach going and in a sympathetic kind of way explaining he's away from the team. There's some stuff happening. We appreciate it if you guys respected that. Or pulling the beat reporters aside and letting them know off the record kind of what's going on, or giving them an idea that it's something a bit more than this guy doesn't like to practice. That goes a long way towards the beat writers not going after it. Like,
just saying it's excused. That it's an understanding mutual thing between us, that we know what he's going through, and it's excused. That's the whole problem. The Bears have never been good at this either. And like, I don't want to call out Kevin Warren. He's got a lot on his plate with the stadium and all that, but I thought that like him running the whole Big Ten, things like this would be cleaned up at least a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they will. It's still, it's for 6 months on the job still. Like, I mean, I don't think we can really see anything about the direction he wants to go yet. But back on Nate Davis, I was really impressed by his week one performance, and I'm excited to see him back on the field this week. Even though, like I said earlier, there were miscues, there were issues, but it was all fixable. The process was all good. You could see him just see, react. It wasn't see, pause, think, react. It was see, react. So the miscues were all things like he just didn't know it because he hadn't done it, which is fixable. That stuff is fixable, and I'm excited to see him play. I really liked some of the flashes I saw from Tyree Carter on Sunday. His play was very up and down. Like, again, there were some things kind of like I was just saying, he's never done it, so he didn't do it right. Like there was a play where the whole line was moving left on an outside zone, and he got caught kind of in between thinking about, because there was a guy in his gap, and that guy backed off, and another guy ended up coming on delayed blitz, but he didn't see it, so he was in between of like, should I come back here and help, or should I move up to the second level? And he just got stuck, and then eventually decided to come back here and help, and the blitzer ran right through his gap. Like stuff like that is, you hope that is development, that he gets better from that. If he doesn't, you start talking about Rashad Coward territory. If he does, he's a guy who looks really like, I mean, not to say he looked like Rashad Coward's first start, but like Rashad Coward had a lot of tools, but he could never get the processing down, right? He could never get the techniques down either. I feel like Carter has some really solid technique already, and it's just the processing that you need to see grow there. Like his hands are just violent, man. He is throwing haymakers out there. It is awesome to watch. Like when you're focusing on him, he's got some power behind that punch, and he is not afraid to use it. He is not afraid to punch a guy right in the mouth, even if it's Vita Vea. Like he is just coming right at him, and I love that. He's got that dog in him, which is really cool to see. And he's always looking for work, which is a great trait to always have the lineman, looking to hit somebody, just wants to hit somebody. That's what he's out there to do. And that, so I'm excited for his future. I'm not sure how much more he's going to play this year. You know, if Jenkins comes back, I'm not sure if they're comfortable moving him to the left side. I would consider, I'm hitting the territory where I would consider if they were going to move him to the left side and felt comfortable with that, with his ability to do that, I would consider having him compete with Whitehair right now. But I'm not sure that they're there with him yet of willing to ask him to switch sides. I also think he could be a really good center if he had the mental processing side down, but there's so much involved there. Like I can't say that I could project him to center without, ever having been around him, but I think he could really excel at that position as well, just with his grittiness and his short area quickness to hit the second level would be really nice there too. He's not a guy that you want pulling long. I noticed, like, he's not, maybe he's changed of direction. Maybe it's like it just seemed like he was missing a lot of blocks downfield when he was being asked to block downfield and to get way outside. So I feel like center would be a nice spot for him if he could get that processing down. But aside from that, Lucas Patrick was really nice in pass protection on Saturday. Run blocking was a little rougher, but very nice rebound from a rough game against Green Bay for him. I don't think he should be a long-term starter here, but he was playing hurt. I'm not sure if it was, I mean, there were plays where in week 1 and week 2 where he was limping off the field. Lucas Patrick's been playing through something, and he's just been grinding. And I really respected the film that he put on tape against Tampa Bay.
Do you think this unit's going to be pretty decent when they can get healthy and get all these guys together? Because it seems like it's just a mismatch right now because they have to.
I mean, I think the Bears O-line coming into the season was solid on paper, but the closer you looked, the more you started to see the cracks. The more you started to see that Tevin Jenkins has gotten hurt every year of his career. The more you see that Cody Whitehair might not be the guy he used to be. And at that point, you're saying, well, we got 3 out of 5 positions covered really well, and 3 out of 5 doesn't give you an O-line. It gives you a nice big hole up the middle.
Yeah, and you're seeing it at least on Sundays for some plays, them walking some of the guys back into Justin Fields, and definitely the inside run game is not has been as successful as we've seen in the past either. Scott, here, going back to our conversation about quarterbacks,
Kirk Cousins could be that guy.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins
his
next
first
year.
Career as a starter under 4,000 yards. That sounds about right.
And he also had a question for you. Do you think that they consider moving right to left guard at any time, or left tackle at any time?
I mean, if Braxton doesn't get better with his run blocking and keeps getting penalties, the only way I see it, like, because his pass protection, I think, has been above average this year, well above average. And I know we all thought Charles Leno was really bad. Charles Leno was actually pretty good. Like that's where pretty good, not good, just like Larry David, like pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't a guy who was going to keep going to Pro Bowls here. Like, this is our foundation of our offensive line, left tackle. He's a guy who's going to consistently come there, block up the pass, get in the way in the run, and, just get the job done. And sometimes that's all you need from an offensive lineman. And that's pretty much what I think Braxton Jones might be, a really solid pass protector who's going to get beaten by power at times because his anchor is just kind of is what it is. He's going to lose that leverage battle more often than not when he's going up against a really powerful guy. But by lose, I mean, get pushed back near the quarterback, not fall over and give a free run at the quarterback. Like, that's the difference between like below average and above average. It's winning on the offensive line doesn't always look like winning. Winning ugly is perfectly acceptable. If you get the job done, you get the job done. So, I mean, that's kind of where Braxton Jones falls into sometimes. I think he's been a lot cleaner this year with that stuff, though, in the pass protection. And I'm not sure that you'd move right to the left side unless you felt like Braxton Jones wasn't getting the job done. And because Braxton's never played on the right side. I don't think. I think all through college he was on the left side, and I think left side is kind of where he is entrenched. And I don't know why you would Wright has played on the left side, but it's not his last name, so I don't know why you do it. But he didn't have a lot of success there. Some of that was probably developmental, because something clearly clicked for him his senior year at Tennessee. It wasn't like he went to the right side and it clicked. It was like he wasn't good on the right, then he wasn't good on the left, and then something clicked and he happened to be on the right. But if he's doing really well, I don't know why you move him. If he does well for 3 years, then maybe you consider it. Then maybe you go like Tristan Wirfs. You go ask Tristan Wirfs in his third, fourth year to move to left tackle. I'm not a big fan of asking him in his first, second year because he's still figuring the league out. Like, he's got enough on his plate.
Yeah, I like that answer. I think that if you solve the position, keep it there. That's the more you can solve through the draft, you can solve through free agency. But yeah, you definitely in his first year got to make sure that he's comfortable and is learning things, and he seems to be comfortable at that position. Another guy looked pretty comfortable, kind of shifting over to the defense a little bit. Gervon Dexter had some great plays on the line. I know you want to talk a little bit about the defense and on the defensive line because you saw some good things out of that group on Sunday.
Oh man, there was so it's only 2 plays. Brandon Thorne tweeted them out last night, I think, or maybe it was Sunday night. I think it was last night. And it's just like, it's only 2 plays. You can't get too excited about it, but that was one of my dudes in the draft. Like, Gervon Dexter was one of my guys who I was like, no one's on him, but I like this. I like this prospect a lot, and he showed some flashes on Sunday, and they're just flashes. It's not consistent yet, but I'll take flashes right now because it. When I watch these 2 clips, if you haven't watched them, just go look up Brandon Thorne or search Brandon Thorne, Gervon Dexter. If you probably just search Gervon Dexter, it'll be one of the first things that pops up. But I just watched it 10 times in a row. I'm just shaking my head, muttering to myself, the violence. The sheer violence that this guy had in those 2 plays. The violence and the power. He's just tossing grown NFL men. I think they were both, or one was Cody Mock, the rookie right guard at North Dakota State. So you can start to say okay, he was going up against a rookie from a FCS school. He should do that. But then he did it to Hainsey too, who's second or third year center there. That's an NFL player who's been solid in the NFL. Nothing special, but he's done his job well enough to stick around. And he's doing it to one of those guys. You start to say, man, I think I see why they drafted this kid. Like, just threw the guys, man, just like nothing. I love to see it. I just love to see it. And Andrew Billings stays awesome. He's probably my favorite player on the Bears right now. Like, Andrew Billings is just the man. I love watching that guy play football right now.
It's good to see that there are some silver linings within the loss on Sunday. Moving on to, I think a silver lining in terms of the unit was, they gave up a ton of yards on Sunday. They definitely did. But they stuck to the Tampa 2 scheme. And when it got into the red zone, they tightened up and they didn't give up points. You think that's Bears football and more of the Bears doing? Baker Mayfield, a little bit of both? What did you see on Sunday?
I think it's I want to give credit to the Bears defense, but I gave up almost 500 yards. Sure that they tightened up in the red zone, I guess. It's if it was against a better quarterback, against a more seasoned coordinator, Tampa's coordinator has never called plays before this year. He's brand new to that aspect of the game. And you could see it in their week 1 performance. He was trying some stuff that he probably shouldn't have been trying. I have to imagine, I haven't watched for that aspect, the replay, but I have to imagine some of that stuff hit. Some of the facts that your quarterback is Baker Mayfield hit. I have a hard time giving the defense the benefit of the doubt when they give up almost 500 yards. That it was oh, well, you guys held up though. I'm not sure that counts as that holding up. Yeah,
you could definitely look at it that way. I thought it was just egregious the push off that Mike Evans got for the 70-some yard too. I mean, that's another almost 100 yards that you're counting in for that. But yeah, I mean, there's some decent things in terms of what we're seeing, but we kind of talked off air about this is a lot of the issues of building from the outside in, and this is kind of where we're at right now, where the back seven's great and they do some great stuff, but when you can't get to the quarterback, guys like Baker Mayfield are still going to be able to carve you up. And that's not a shot at Baker.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when you can get comfortable, you could do a lot more than when you're uncomfortable. I think that's just a fair assessment in any sport.
There's an old Buddy Ryan quote. What is it? It's quarterbacks are all pompous bastards and they must pay, or something like that. The less a quarterback gets hit, the more pompous they get, I think. And the more confident they get, the more they feel like they are just in it, the more they're already in Monday morning mode. I piss gold, that's you need to hit them. You just need to hit them. You need to make them uncomfortable. And if you don't, they're just playing backwards is really hard. I mean, that's what coverage players do all the time, and it is really hard. There's a very thin margin for error, and the best in the world, like Jalen Ramsey last year when the Rams pass rush was really struggling, Jalen Ramsey didn't look that good. It's it doesn't matter how good you are if you don't have a pass rush, you're still going to give up more yards than you probably should, which sucks, but that's what you get when you build outside in, like you said, when you start with the corners and the safeties and then get to the linebackers. But even the linebackers, if there's no pass rush, you're going to have to bring them on blitzes. You're going to have to mug up the line of scrimmage. It's going to take them out of their ideal position. Going to create issues for them of being blind because they have to get back to a spot, and things that the offense can take advantage of. And ultimately, it's with this defensive concept, it's all about creating turnovers, right? Turnovers come down to making the quarterback uncomfortable more times than not. Sure, you can create fumbles and stuff like that, but most interceptions come down to desperation from the quarterback and uncomfortable from the quarterback. And both of those things are created by pressure.
Yeah, 100%. I think the silver lining too is when they are able to move around, you did see, guys like Brisker get their hand on the ball. When things like that happen, that's why this, Tampa 2 looks the way it looks. That's why they play it this way. I think we've moved on. We're done with talking about the game from last week. We're going to talk a little bit about the game coming up against the Chiefs. Q, first question for you. What do they got to do to make this close? I think this is one of those things that we can sit and talk for hours about, but what can the Bears do? I think the line was 13 and a half now. I'm not sure if that's completely true or I don't know, whatever.
I think it was 12 and a half right before the show. I was trying to pick out my bets for my other show tonight.
So what do they got to do? Can they do it? Is it?
You got to effectively take away Travis Kelce just without committing extra men to him. That is number one. You need, because I can say you got to effectively get after Pat Mahomes. Doesn't seem to matter. You got to break Pat Mahomes' leg. Doesn't seem to matter. He still won the Super Bowl on it. There's no real stopping Pat Mahomes. Maybe get all the wide receivers and do whatever the Lions did to him to make him drop the football every time they get thrown to. It just doesn't make sense to me. And full disclosure, I went to Texas Tech. Pat Mahomes was my favorite college football player of all time, and I am a little bit biased when it comes to the Chiefs, but that's neither here nor there because they're playing my favorite team this week, the Chicago Bears. And the first thing you have to do is be able to take Travis Kelce out of the game without committing extra bodies to him. And Tremaine Edmonds might be about your best bet in the NFL to try to do that. I'm not sure there's another player who has the length and the athleticism to really start to do that as he does, but also you're going to need a safety. You're going to need to be going back and forth between Eddie Jackson and Tremaine Edmonds and taking him away because you can't just use one guy. Andy Reid's too good. He'll find a way to take advantage of it. And you need to be doing it in the right moments when Andy Reid's not expecting. Like when Andy Reid is expecting you to use one guy, you need to use a different guy. And I don't know how to tell you when that's going to happen. I don't know if Andy Reid can tell you when that's going to happen. I think that's just a feel, and that's what makes him so damn good.
Yeah, you talked about what you got to do offensively or defensively to this unit. What do you have to do offensively? What can they capitalize on to keep this? Because it seems like if you're going to win this football game, you're going to have to score a lot of points. You're going to have to, and that's when you play the Chiefs the most of the time that is. But this year, you look at their offensive wide receivers are, maybe a little shaky. There's not that number one guy out there like a Tyreek Hill that you have to worry about.
They're pretty shaky.
So it seems like if you can score points, you'll be in it. Can the Bears score points against that defensive unit for the Chiefs?
Weeks 1 through 10 Chiefs, I think they could. Weeks 11 through Super Bowl Chiefs, that's a different defense. Spags does not bring out his A game until the second half of the season every single year, I feel like. So, yeah, this defense, I think the talent is probably higher than the production will be right now, just because I think they save their horses for the back half of the year. They save their best stuff, their best concepts, Spags is going to come at you. But I think he saves his best blitz packages for later in the year, his most creative stuff. But I would like their chances a lot better if it was 2 weeks ago when Chris Jones wasn't there, because Chris Jones is just unreal. But I will say the biggest strength of that defense is probably their cornerbacks. And one of the Bears' biggest strengths is their wide receivers. So that has potential to work out in the Bears' favor. It's kind of like any given Sunday kind of thing, there's both units are really talented. It's just who's going to make more plays. Chiefs linebacking core is really strong. I think they got some real players there. The defensive line is real. I mean, Chris Jones is the big deal, but outside of that, they don't have a lot. George Karlaftis has been okay since he got drafted. Felix Anudike-Uzomah has only played a little bit. He shined some, but he's not a guy who's going to be getting a ton of run yet. He's still kind of figuring things out, it seems like, especially in Spags defense, where there's a lot of stuff he needs to watch out for. It's a very, they need to play very disciplined football if they're blitzing that much, or if they're that aggressive. They're just a very aggressive unit. Not unlike the Buccaneers, but different than the Buccaneers. Like, they are aggressive, but not as caution to the wind as I'd say Todd Bowles' defense is. Like, Todd Bowles is coming for you. They're animalistically aggressive, whereas Spagnola's defense is calculated aggressive.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess I don't really have a good answer for you there. It's just, I mean, I think they're a little overmatched on talent. I imagine that Chris Jones is going to have a lot of opportunities right up on Whitehair and Patrick, the weakest spot of the line, and just you got to be able to keep Chris Jones at bay. And Whitehair's got to – I need to see him absorbing less contact and creating more contact against Chris Jones, because if he absorbs, he's done.
Before I get to my favorite segment of any On Tap show, I don't know if you know this, Q, but I always pick out a favorite comment that was in the comments tonight. It's kind of my signature in terms of Cubs on Tap, and now Bears on Tap's going to get a little bit of it. I want your score prediction, if you may, for this coming Sunday, Bears-Chiefs.
Ooh. I haven't gone through my full preview and thought it all through yet. I'm a little behind on this week's. I haven't watched the Chiefs tape yet, but I'm gonna say Bears 24, Chiefs 35.
Okay. I would actually be okay with that. If the Bears could put up 24 points and show some growth, show some optimism, I would take 0-3 at the end of this little run. It's been brutal, but yeah.
So that's my brain's prediction, at least. I think that, according to my brain, that's a backdoor cover.
Okay.
Like,
there you go.
That's like you're down. You're down by 17 and get a touchdown to end the game. Like,
gotcha.
But my heart, because I never picked the Bears to lose in my article, so I can't start now. I can't start just because it's the Chiefs. My heart says, let's get wild. Velus Jones gets a kick return touchdown because for some reason he ends up back on the kick return team. The Bears get a pick six off of a Kadarius Toney drop.
Okay.
And so there's 14. Justin Fields has 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in a big game for him. So that's 35 right there, ain't it?
Yeah, I think too, sandwiched in between that is the PA goes off and blank space starts playing. Travis Kelce gets distracted.
Yeah.
Doesn't run his route. Yeah, that's just wild, man. Good for him if he's really dating Taylor Swift. She's so very talented. So very talented.
So I'm gonna keep the Chiefs at 35. I'm gonna say the Bears get the interception off Kadarius Toney drop as time expires. Go for 2 because it's on the road and they win 36-35.
Sweet. Man, that would be awesome. We turn the Xbox. We turn the Xbox off after that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We drop the controller on the ground and walk away.
Oh man, what a brutal time it is to be a Bears fan. In a lot of ways, a lot of panic. But I'll say this: I'm going to make a bold prediction. I do think this week the offense looks better and Justin looks better. I will say that. I think that this is the week where he gets some of the naysayers off his back, and he has a very nice game at Arrowhead, and the narrative maybe starts to change a little bit. Because I think that he's too good to not have one of these games where you just look up and you're like, okay, maybe we do have something here. I really do believe that.
Yeah. I've been eyeing the over, and I'm still undecided, but I really think this might be a week to bet the over.
Sounds about right. Q, any final thoughts before I pick the comment of the night and we get out of here because we are at the hour mark?
So let's see. I wanted to highlight a message that I got from a guy who's a friend of the show, Start Kyle Orton on Twitter. Has his own podcast, the Start Kyle Orton podcast, aka the Scodcast. Message was just, I thought it was perfect. He said the discussion was obviously Justin Fields, because what else would we talk about? I mean, he's a broken QB right now. There's no way around it. You can argue about who broke him or how, but it doesn't matter. And that is the encapsulation of how I'm feeling about the Bears right now.
I love it. I'll add to it. It's always darkest before the dawn. A little dark night.
There you go. There you go.
Fingers crossed. Scott Crawford wins the comment of the night when we were talking about beating the. Did I get it up there? See, I always mess up here. Yep. Andy Reid's pregame meal options. This is how you beat the Chiefs. Love it.
Can you say that one more time? True. Cut out on me.
Oh, I said replace Reid's pregame meal with vegan options. Chiefs. That's we were talking about
right.
The how to beat the Chiefs. I think that's the comment.
Give him an Impossible Burger. That's all you need to do.
I actually sell those, Q. Little do you know, I'm working in food service. I sell that product, and yes, it is brutal. Just bad all around.
Getting a call from your manager soon.
Hopefully he's not listening. He is on the East Coast. He is probably listening to some Philly Eagles podcast at this point, if that's the case, and good for him. Diehard Eagles fan over there, my boss. But Bears on Tap is one of two Chicago Bears podcasts here at On Tap Sportsnet. Make sure you're heading over to the Bears Nation podcast as well. They do a great job doing the opposite side of this, where they do the post and pregame shows. We do a little bit more in-depth conversation, talk about the larger points of the show and what's going on in the world of the Bears. Bulls, Bears, Hawks, Cubs, White Sox. We have it all at OnTap Sportsnet. So make sure you're heading over to www.ontapsportsnet.com for all your sports and literature needs. It's a great
So I think Juice cut out on us there, but as he was saying, ontapsportsnet.com, all your Chicago sports needs, and we appreciate you guys listening. Please make sure to go comment, like, subscribe, help us with the algorithm. Makes a huge difference for us, and we appreciate you guys. We love seeing your comments here, and we'll finish this off the only way we know how. Bear down.